Welcome back. Democratic Senator Michael Bennet pressed top Trump national security officials over the signal leaks during a Senate intelligence hearing this week, at one point engaging in this heated exchange with CIA Director John Ratcliffe.
This sloppiness, this incompetence, this disrespect for our intelligence agencies and the personnel who work for them is entirely unacceptable. It's an embarrassment. Senator, you need to do better.
And joining me now is Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado. Senator Bennet, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me, Kristen.
Thank you so much for being here after a very busy week. In addition to that fiery exchange, intelligence officials told your committee this week that no classified information was shared. Do you believe that Directors Ratcliffe and Gabbard were truthful when they testified before your committee?
No, I think they lied repeatedly to our committee and to the House committee. Kristen, let me try to make this as simple as I can. And I think the American people know this. If this material was not classified, literally nothing that I've ever heard as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee over all these years is classified. I wish I could say that we have deep, dark secrets that are even more classified than this, but it's not true. This targeting information in real time, everybody knows it's classified, and I think that's why you see the American people, no matter what party they're in, are so deeply concerned about not just what happened, but I think the lies that are being told about what happened.
Well, you know, your colleague, Senator Richard Blumenthal, said the sharing of this information on Signal actually violates a law and said there should be legal consequences. Do you agree?
Well, I think these people should go. We need the top members of our intelligence community to be nonpartisan. We need them to tell the truth to the American people. We need them not to attack the press just because they're trying to lie about what happened and what they did. They have a responsibility that is solemn to our intelligence agencies and to the men and women of our armed forces, and above all to the American people. And they have failed that test. Not to mention the fact that our allies have now been dragged into this, according to public reports, because the classified intelligence that they acted on was shared by our closest allies, and now has been revealed as a result of Pete Hegseth's text chain.
Well, we'll continue to track that story. I do want to ask you about something else this morning. I had the opportunity to speak with President Trump just this morning. He had some stern words for Russian President Vladimir Putin. He told me he's angry and pissed off. Those are quotes at Putin over comments he recently made saying that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky needs to be removed from power. Let me ask you, Senator, would you support secondary tariffs against Russia if it became clear that they were not serious about getting a peace agreement with Ukraine?
Of course I would, but this is crazy. I mean, Donald Trump, until this morning, has been saying that that Zelensky is not the real president of Ukraine. That we should have an election in Ukraine to establish that. He said that Ukraine started this war. He has cut off. Now he's restored it, but he cut off our intelligence and our munitions that were going to Ukraine. He's done nothing but undermine Ukraine's negotiating position, Europe's negotiating position, the unique negotiating position of the United States of America. And now today, because he's quote unquote pissed off at Trump or Putin for doing exactly what everyone on planet Earth would have expected Putin to do, which is not come to an agreement unless he's forced into an agreement. And after President Trump has undermined America's position, this is a painful experience. What he should do is support the Ukrainian people who are on the battlefield in the dead of winter in Ukraine right now, who have suffered 400,000 casualties in this war on behalf of democracy, this war on behalf of the West, and have done punishing damage to Russia's army in the process. And the reality of this situation, the American people need the President of the United States to describe it accurately and properly and to put us in the right position to get the best outcome for Ukraine, which is a peace guarantee from Europe and from the United States of America.
I want to ask you about something else the president told me. He told me he would impose secondary tariffs on Iran if they do not seem serious about striking a deal on nuclear weapons, making sure that they do not get one. He says he has not taken bombing Iran off the table. In fact, he would bomb them the likes of which they have never seen if he thinks they are not serious about a peace deal. Would you support, Senator, bombing Iran under those circumstances in which it seemed like striking a deal to avert getting a nuclear weapon was out of reach?
We can never allow Iran to have nuclear weapons. The world cannot allow it. We've seen how problematic it is when a rogue regime like, for example, North Korea has nuclear weapons. We cannot allow the mullahs in Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Having said that, you know, it is extraordinary again that here is a case where Donald Trump got rid of the original Iran nuclear deal, during the course of which Iran was much further away from getting to a nuclear weapon than it is today as a result of the decisions that Donald Trump made in his first administration. And now he's saying that if the Iranians don't do a deal, he's going to bomb them. Let's hope that there is a deal. That would be a better outcome for the world. But if it comes to it, we have to take the steps necessary with our allies to make sure that Iran never possesses a nuclear weapon. Right, and Iran needs to know that about how the American people feel.
Let me ask you now about the future of the Democratic Party. Senator, you have stopped short of calling for Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to step down, though you were critical of his striking a deal to avert a government shutdown, effectively siding with Republicans there. But you did say, quote, it's important for leaders to know when it's time to go. Do you still have confidence in Leader Schumer?
I think that a much more important question is what we're going to do as a Democratic Party to create a compelling view for Americans that are going to allow us to lead again. We should never have lost to Donald Trump once, much less twice. And there are many things I blame Donald Trump for, as you can tell from the conversation we've had today. But getting elected president isn't one of those things. The Democratic Party has lost touch with working people in our country at a time when 50 years of trickle-down economics has meant that most Americans feel like no matter how hard they work, their kids are not going to live a life better than the life they led. And I think the Democratic Party needs to use this moment of having been repudiated at the national level to figure out a creative and imaginative agenda for the 21st century that's going to lift the fortunes of working people and the middle class all across this country.
You know, California Governor Gavin Newsom went so far as to say the Democratic brand is toxic right now. Senator, those are powerful words. Do you agree that the Democratic brand is toxic?
I do agree that the Democratic Party brand is really problematic, and I think that it is a brand that is, with all respect to my colleague from California, is associated with New York and with California, is associated with the educated elites in this country and not anymore with working people in this country. You know, the good news is for the party, I think, is that Donald Trump is pursuing the same trickle-down economics that he pursued the first time he was president, to make sure that he can create again the tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the United States and pay for it by taking away health care from the American people. That's really bad for America. But the Democratic Party ought to be able to come back under those circumstances with a pretty good argument about why we could lead better than Donald Trump and why we are able to provide a better set of economic policies, a much better set of health care policies that ensures universal health care finally for everybody in this country. And as a former school superintendent, actually has something to say about the fact that we're running an 18th century school system in America and our kids desperately need it to be a 21st century school system that makes them competitive again. Our kids are invisible to Donald Trump, And if the Democratic Party would show up with some imagination, I think not only would we do better, the American people would do better.
Senator Bennet, very quickly, before I let you go, a lot of talk about the fact that you are seriously considering running for governor. Can you confirm here today, do you plan to run for governor of your great state?
I'm not going to do it here today, and I am considering where the best place to have this fight is and where the best place to reinvent the Democratic Party is and what I can do, where I can fight best for the people of Colorado who have given me the privilege to represent them in Washington, D.C. And as soon as I have a final answer to that, I'll let you know.
Please come back with your final answer. Senator Bennet, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.